everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Taylor.
I'm Blanca, and today is
Wicked Wine Wednesdays, where we talk about true crime and sample wines.
Today we'll be discussing the Jodi Arias case.
So if you like wine and true crime, don't forget to
Like, comment, and subscribe.
I just want to remind you guys that the wines that we tried will come at the end of the video, so if you're interested in that, stay tuned until then. And I also want to put it out there that we will be posting a video every other Wednesday. So let's dive in. This case that we're discussing today is about Jodi Arias, and if you don't know who that is, boy, do we have to tell you. So she is a piece of work, to say the least. She was born July 9th, 1980 in Salinas, California. I was going to say Salinas, but it's Salinas.
Anything.
Salinas, California. And she ended up living there most of her life. And she met a man in 2006, September of 2006, named Travis Alexander, who is somebody that she enjoyed being with. And when they met at a PPL thing, which is like a multi-marketing company, almost like a pyramid scheme. We don't like to call them those, but that's kind of what it is. But she met him there, and they hit it off, and apparently it was love at first sight. He saw her and he told his friends, "This is the woman I want to marry. This is the girl for me." And he was all about her. But he was part of the Latter-day Saints. He was Mormon, and she wasn't. So that kind of got in the way of their relationship because they were having premarital sex. And if you know, in the Mormon community, that is completely forbidden. So he started to feel kind of guilty about their relationship because he wasn't supposed to be doing these sexual things with her, but he saw it as, this is the woman I'm going to marry, so it doesn't matter that I'm being sexually intimate with her, which makes sense. But they ended up carrying out a long-distance relationship for a little bit because he lived in Arizona and she lived in California, so they would go back and forth. But in 2007, she moved to Mesa to be closer to him. So sweet. Very, very sweet. But obviously, Travis saw this as a sweet gesture, which it is.
I mean,
it is.
Any other person, any other situation, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
But
I know people do it all the time, and it's great.
Yeah, but not the best.
Not in this situation.
Yeah. She ends up being very obsessed with him, which he liked, though. He found her very attractive. He cared about her a lot, and he told his friends he did, so he didn't mind that she was obsessed with him.
I mean, who doesn't want somebody that's obsessed with them?
Oh, yeah, especially if you think it's somebody that you're going to marry.
Like on a healthy level.
Yeah.
Obsession.
Yeah, of course. And his friends said that their relationship was, like, kind of weird because that obsession with him seemed to be pretty high. And they started saying that, like, she would constantly be, like, calling him and texting him all of the time, and they kind of noticed that she didn't really give him a break. But they said for some reason Travis didn't notice. Like, he had no idea that this is what was happening, that there was, like, this tumultuous relationship going on. So there was actually a time where Travis and his friends were, like, hanging out in a room, and his friends were trying to tell him, like, sit him down and be like, hey, this relationship is not a good one. They actually verbatim told him that we're afraid that you're gonna be found chopped up in her freezer one day. Like, if that's not a sign to get the hell out of there, I don't know what is. But this time that they're all sitting in the room and they're trying to have this almost intervention with him about his relationship with Jodi, they tell him like, "Hey, it's weird. She's weird. Like she's obsessed with you, and I bet you she's outside the door listening right now as we're in here." And he's like, "No," and they go and open the door, and she's standing there, just like, "What?" And they're like, what do you, like, if I was Jodi, I'd be like, "Oh, sorry." How do you even just feel
I would have just like heard them walking up to the door. Oh, gotta walk in the other direction. Gotta go.
Yeah, but obviously she didn't. She didn't care.
You gotta do your little like ninja tuck and roll, like down the hallway. Make it seem like you were never
just a quick escape. Yeah, and they're like, "See, like what the hell?" And he, I guess at that point, was like, "Oh, yeah, something's not right."
It's like the dating blinders. You just don't realize people's flaws and red flags because you think you love them and you think they're perfect.
Yeah.
And everybody else notices a lot of other things.
And that's the thing he did. Like, he had a vlog or a blog, I don't know, one of them.
One of those things.
And he talked about how much he really, really cared about her and how much he grew to just care about her so deeply. He says that he saw her and he liked her, and then he grew to like love her, and now he just cares for her so deeply. And you know, if that's a dynamic that you have with somebody, that's beautiful. But for it to be toxic, which obviously it was, that's something that he didn't notice, and I'm glad his friends were there to tell him something and get him to realize what was going on.
So, I mean, not only were his friends concerned with good intentions, because obviously they thought she was going to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out they were right, but we'll get to that. And this time we're going to talk about how basically neurotic she went. She just got so obsessive to the point where it really was, if I couldn't have him, then nobody else could. And why people get to this point, I don't know. I mean, I get not wanting somebody to like have your man, but like, they're not your property. People, like, can we move on? Like, Jesus.
Chill.
Anyway, Alexander has this blog where he basically talks about how he had a very difficult upbringing because, honestly, who doesn't? In his difficult upbringing, his parents were addicted to drugs, and there were times where he wasn't eating and he just, you know, things weren't the best for him. Eventually, though, he does turn his life over, you know, kind of to the Mormon ways, trying to build a better relationship with God at that point, you know, just trying to better himself.
Which he did.
Yeah. And then he met Jodi. And then it just was like the spiral. Just.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. It's not funny, but like, why do you go back, people? Why?
Well, I think it's kind of hard to go back, like not go back when she's literally stalking your entire life.
No, I mean, that is true. So then we get to that. So obviously the relationship, like we said, they hit it off. It was love at first sight. They were both in love with each other, obsessed with each other. Then I think Alex started to notice things about her and then decided, maybe this isn't the relationship for me. And again, because he was struggling with the fact that they were having premarital sex, that obviously was another issue in the relationship and just kept causing more issues.
But he did turn her over to being a Mormon. He baptized her and everything. So basically, they were both part of the church.
Yeah, so. Basically, I think that basically was just her going, or him going, I won't be with you unless you're Mormon, and her, because she wanted to be with him so badly, just went for it.
Yeah.
But eventually he does convert her. He baptized her. She went on to talk about how it was like a really like intimate experience and things like that. And like later on interviews, but it's just baffling. Anyway, they have their tension in their relationship. They decide to break up. And actually when they break up, is when she decided to move to Mesa to be closer. So not that cute because it was a little uninvited.
I mean, very.
Very uninvited. Not just even a little uninvited. Yeah. It was very uninvited. She does stay there for a while, but it did get to the point where, you know, she was letting herself into his house because she knew the garage code. And, you know, if she couldn't get in that way, there's other reports that she would sneak in through the doggy door. Like,
how big was this dog?
Obviously, there were times where he would be very upset and would kick her immediately out of the house. Other times, like everybody else that we kind of talks about, takes her back, jumps right into bed with her. I mean, dudes, if the sex is, you know, like, is the sex really that great that they have to keep taking them back? Or are you taking them back because, like, you're afraid that, like, something is gonna happen? But,
yeah.
I don't know, because then it's just, like, by bringing them back, you're allowing for something to happen. I don't know.
Yeah, but I feel like it's kind of hard to walk away from that when, like, she's pretty much ruining your life every second that she gets.
That's, yeah, it's
like, well, why not just be with her when, like, everything else is a disaster? Yeah, she did a lot of things because she was pissed off that they broke up. Like, she slashed his tires a few times, and a lot happened.
And then his friends also had said too that, you know, prior to not prior to them being worried about everything, but in the midst of them being worried of everything, she did start to show, like, more possessive behavior towards him. So it went from being like, hey, dude, your girlfriend's kind of weird, to, like, okay, now we're reaching, like, multiple red flags over here. Like, yeah. And he's just like, everything's fine, dudes.
Yeah, they tried, and props to them. No. And, like, after a while, though, he did notice, which is obviously why
which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, just to keep taking them back through everything.
And
mind-boggling.
And I'm saying that she slashed his tires, but nobody knows for sure that it's her that slashed his tires. It wasn't caught, but, like, they just broke up and his tires are slashed.
In our opinion, she did it.
Yeah. And in his friends' opinions also.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure everyone was like, yep, that was her.
Yeah, for sure. And when they did break up, he started seeing a woman named Lisa. He, like, tried to stray away from all that toxicity. And
I didn't want to.
Yeah, and they got along really well. He really liked her, and that was somebody that he really enjoyed being with, especially after everything Jodi had put him through. And Jodi harassed her too. She ended up, like, going to her house and knocking on her windows and her doors, and she would hang outside of her house, like, peeking through the window, and would go to Travis's house and, like, peek through his window when they were together. I don't know why she thought that's okay, but she did, and they weren't for sure that it was her, you know, doing all of these things. But when Alexander confronted her about it, she completely denied it. She was like, no, why would that be me?
It wasn't me. Excuse me? Who?
Yeah, but obviously that wasn't the case, because I'm sure it was her. But
not only that, but obviously it scared off Lisa. So now that's, like, another relationship that's ruined for him.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe that is the reason that he keeps taking her back, because it's just like, well, I can't be happy with anybody else because you're going to constantly keep ruining it. But to me, the more that you keep, like, taking them back, the more that, like, you keep doing these things versus, like, fighting them and trying to be like, no, this isn't what I want. Like, I feel like maybe that's why y'all get killed. Like, not in a mean way. I'm not trying to be mean.
Yeah.
But, like, you're still letting them in. You're still willingly inviting them. And it's like you have a fear already for your fight.
There's, like, no boundaries.
But there's no boundaries. Yeah. It's not to the point where you're like, look, we're getting cops and everything involved. It's just to the point where you're like, I guess I'll take you back because I don't want to deal with your crazy. And it's just, I don't know.
But there were a few accounts that Arias and Travis started engaging in phone sex and doing all these things again because his brother said that she was his kryptonite and he couldn't get away from her. And you know, he I'm sure he did really care for her. And he did really love her, and he wanted that to work, but it's so hard to make that work with somebody who's so toxic. And there was a time where she called him and basically told him there's somebody stalking me and like stalking my house and sending me all these emails, like threatening emails. And nobody was ever able to confirm or deny that the emails were from somebody other than Jodi, but I'm sure they were from Jodi. And he ended up taking her back because of that, because he was worried about her and didn't want something to happen to her. And how ironic is that he doesn't want something to happen to her. He wants things for her to go well, and he wants to make sure that she's safe. So he's willing to bring her back into his life. And she's the one that doesn't keep him safe. Like, she's the one that caused him these issues. It's so upsetting. She obviously took advantage of a good guy.
Oh no, 1000%. And
Yeah.
That's what really sucked. Like, the fact that she so had him like wrapped around her pinky, and it was just so sad because she knew, like, just dance for me, little puppet. Like,
yeah.
And it's just so depressing.
But he had told Arias at some point that he texted her or emailed her, and he said, you don't know the horror that you have caused me. Which, using that language is like, wow, like, the horror you have caused me, that's deep. And she responded with it was never my intention to harm you, which is weird. And he called her a sociopath and the lowest of the low, because she scared away his potential relationship and caused these problems in his life. And it only makes sense for him to be upset.
By the time early 2008 comes around, Alexander is really, really trying to not associate himself with Jodi at this point. He is very much just trying to move forward from his life. In about April, he is not necessarily planning a retreat. It was like a company retreat to Cancun, but he did ask to switch his +1 to a female friend that he had begun to pursue, who herself was another Mormon, so it was kind of, another perfect fit for him. And then in May, whose grandparents' house decides to get robbed? Where she's living. Let's add that.
Yeah.
She's living there, and her grandparents' house get robbed. And this is May-ish or so.
Like, right after the change.
After he, makes the change to another female friend. And the next month, the house is robbed. And the only thing not recovered, anybody want to guess? Anybody? It was a .25 caliber. Why, dear? Why? We'll tell you why. So now, it almost kind of seems like this is going to be perfectly planned out, because now we're kind of getting to the beginning of June, right before Travis is going to go on this company retreat to Cancun with another female. Which, good for him. Yeah. That would have been great. That would have been great. Unfortunately, not something that he gets to do.
Yeah.
Because Jodi decides that she's going to plan a trip to Utah in the beginning of June. Now we get to the very beginning of June, maybe a week or two before his trip. And Jodi pretty much plans this out perfectly. Super perfectly. She decides that she's going to plan a trip to Utah. She's going to drive there. She's going to get a rental car from somewhere in Redding. She's going to come back and she's going to return it, right? Right? I think it's going to be fine. What, obviously isn't transpired is many other things. She did have a few phone calls to Travis the day prior to murdering him. With those though, none of the transcripts were ever like pulled, presented at her trial, so there's actually like no transcripts available from that. But obviously there must have not been anything really that would have implicated anything. There was mainly 2 major phone calls from like the 10 that were, I guess, made, because she did try calling him a few times, but it went to voicemail. He called her back a few times. They would talk, then she would call him back. It was kind of almost like phone tag and going back and forth. And then she decides to set out on this trip to Utah. And in this trip to Utah, her alibi is that she is going to be meeting with somebody else because now, she wants to move forward with her life. And so she's going to be meeting somebody new. Now, the other fun thing that gets to be super convenient, if you ask me, is as she's driving from California to Utah, obviously, if you don't know this, your phone pings off of every cell phone tower that you pass by. That's basically how your navigation knows where you are all the time. How pretty much anyone knows where you are all the time, because let's face it, we're all being tracked. But again, no matter what, you have something that's traced back to you, because if you're driving, oh, you pinged off this cell phone tower, so at this exact time you were driving through here.
Yeah.
So now we get to the point where Jodi's driving, and conveniently the amount of time that she would have had to stop, kill him, and end up in Utah matches up pretty much perfectly with her, I'm sorry, what was it? Her phone died? And that was the whole reason that there was no pinging off of her cell phone, and that's why there's no technical trace of where she was during his murder.
I mean, smart, but like, come on.
It's 2020.
I mean, it wasn't then.
Oh, it wasn't then, but damn.
And it's 2021.
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
It is 2021. Dude, they all blended after the pandemic hit, okay?
True. Oh my god. The pandemic started and I turned what?
24? You just turned 26.
20.
You're gonna be 27.
24.
So again, conveniently, by the time her phone does turn back on and we get pinging services and all this stuff, where is Miss Jodi? Conveniently in Utah.
Where she said she was going.
But your phone's been supposedly dead and you finally got it to charge right when you got to Utah.
Of course.
Couldn't have charged it while you were passing through, like,
Arizona,
Nevada, New Mexico, anywhere. I mean, really, so many other places you could have charged it, but sure. Yeah. Let's just say that we conveniently ended up in Utah. Now, at this point, the female that was going to be going on the trip with Travis was texting him because they were trying to make plans. Obviously, like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? They're trying to plan that. Now, Travis did have a roommate, and his roommate was home. However, because he knew about the Cancun trip, it got to the point where he just assumed that Travis was on that trip already and didn't really think much of it and was just kind of like, oh, he's in Cancun, everything's fine. He was technically missing for about 5 days. In that time, his friends were, texting him, why aren't you responding to us? Like, please text us back, call us. I think even one of his friends was like, yo, T-Dog, like, you better be dead. Like, that's better. Like, that better be the reason I'm not getting responses. And I mean, it's kind of crappy because unfortunately he was. Because one person, again, decided that they can control whoever they want. And that's just not how it works, people. It's just not.
Nope. And the thing is, too, is when it comes down to, like, her conviction and everything, she obviously planned all this.
Oh yeah,
This is a plan.
it
It's
was
not like,
so premeditated.
it's not like it was a love of like a
crime of passion,
yeah.
or no. This was something she definitely planned because again, how was your grandparents' house where you're living conveniently gonna go get robbed? Like probably like 2 weeks after he went and made the change. Honestly, like,
and so when he had been missing and his friends were wondering what the hell's going on, they were like, something's not right. So they ended up going to his house, and they go into the bedroom, and they immediately are hit with the smell of a dead body, and there's blood again everywhere. Everywhere. Ceilings, floors, walls, everywhere. And they find his body completely like bled out on the bathroom floor. And they immediately were like, Jodi. Like when the cops asked his friends, do you have any idea who could have done this? They were like, Jodi did it. It was her. And the cops were like, oh, okay, we'll look into it. But they didn't really think too much of it because they were like, she's not even in the area. Like, how would this have happened? But conveniently, she calls up the cops. And she's like, hey, like, I know people might suspect me, but it definitely wasn't me. And I just couldn't do that. Like, I'm little and, like, there's no way I could have, like, done that. He could have for sure overpowered me.
Was that, like, before, though, they announced that he was deceased? Or, like, she just, like, do we know that?
No, I think it was after they announced it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then she tried to call in and being like...
Yeah.
First of all, if you call in right away to be like, it's not me, everyone's gonna look at you real quick and be like,
yeah,
how did you even know anybody thought of you?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, the investigators were like, oh, okay, that's weird, but for sure. And the crazy thing is like the investigator said that she like didn't seem like she was upset or anything. She was just talking to them like, hey, like, this is how my day's going. And they're like,
I went to Starbucks this morning.
Yeah.
Got a croissant.
And they're like, what the hell? Like, so confused. So they started doing DNA swabs and stuff of the entire place. And they found that her DNA was mixed with a bloody handprint that was with Travis's handprint, like on the wall. Like it was both of their DNA. And they basically ask her, hey, we found your DNA. And she tries to make up this whole story that like the only reason why her DNA was in the house is because she was there with him when he died. And these like masked men came into the house and they just started killing him. And okay, we forgot to mention he was stabbed 27 times.
27 to 29. They're actually not 100% sure. And he had a slit throat and a gunshot.
Yeah, and he got shot in the head with a .25 caliber pistol.
Which, again, what went missing from Grandma and Grandpa's? I know.
But, it's probably the same one that the masked dudes came with.
Exactly. And they stole her gun, and then they went to her boyfriend's house and was like, I'm gonna kill you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That makes so much logic, honey.
She tried to say that they were completely after him. The intruders.
Who else was that tried to say it was a masked man?
Oh, the son, the mom.
Oh, the Donna and Ramsey. Okay, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I was like, who else was it?
Yeah. She tried to say that these men came in and she didn't end up dying or like getting killed or anything because they only wanted him, and she has no idea why they wanted him.
Oh my god, she probably listened to her testimony. She was like, this one's great, I'm gonna go for it, I'll try and sell it.
And obviously it didn't work either. But she, like, I don't know why she thought that was going to work, but she said that that's why her DNA was in the house. Like, you know, maybe she could have been like, oh yeah, I was there like 2 weeks ago and like I cut my hand or something. But no, we had to go for the whole...
I would have been like, yeah, I was there. Like, he was still alive when we left. Like, I came over, we had sex. Like, that was it. And then I left.
And she's like, let me just make up this whole masked man, like, or masked intruders.
At that point, everyone knows you're guilty.
Yeah, and then they asked her, like, well, why didn't you tell us? And she's like, because I was terrified that, like, they would know where I live.
Literally and, sounds like Dawn.
Yeah. And, like, they would kill my family, so I just, I didn't. And so she ended up, obviously, getting first-degree murder charges because it only makes sense. She was arrested at her house 6 days later after they found his body and everything because, duh. And
I mean, she gave it up so quick.
Yeah, and she pleaded not guilty. Of course, she didn't do it. And
the mask.
And she ended up, like, they have. That's the thing too. You guys should watch. I think I mentioned him in our Stephanie Lazarus case. The JCS Productions. He does all of the psychology readings of the interviews and all of that. And he has one of Jodi Arias, and she's just like bubbly, happy. And there's like a part where she starts doing handstands in the interview room after the cops leave. She ends up doing handstands and like stretching and stuff. And she said it's because she was in there for hours. But it's like, your boyfriend, you think your boyfriend or ex-boyfriend just got murdered, so you're just gonna do handstands?
Sure,
doesn't make sense.
Let's do it.
So she, 2 years after she had been arrested, she tried to make a claim that the reason why she did it is because he was violent towards her and abused her, and domestic violence was always taking place with him and her, and she tried to kill him. I mean, he tried to kill her, so she killed him first. And it's like, maybe that would have worked before you came up with the whole masked man scenario, and before you called the cops and said, hey, I had nothing to do with this, just in case you were wondering. It wasn't me. But she, obviously, they were like, nah.
Well, it's just that, and like, why would they believe her saying that like he was abusive towards her when like I feel all of his friends would have been like, no, like for sure no. You know what I mean? Like, they knew him as a person, like they were more worried for his life. Like, I don't think he would have portrayed any violence towards her. There's like always like that 1% chance that like that might have been true, but like who knows? Obviously this girl is just crazy.
Well, I mean, actually she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and PTSD. And she showed signs of
with that, but
an
like,
unstable sense of identity.
They don't go around killing people?
Yeah, I know. That's why, I don't know. And anxiety, which...
I mean, same, girlfriend, but I don't go around killing people.
Yeah. But she... Actually, it's crazy. She ended up taking pictures of him in the shower moments before she killed him. And I'll probably post one of the one of the famous pictures that like went viral with this case right here. But she did this and people are obviously very shocked by it because the crazy thing is she came into the trial room like completely different. She had like bangs, she had glasses on, she was like wearing like a little button up, like it's almost like she tried to look like this nanny, almost like I'm a good girl.
Let me look as good as I possibly can so that you won't reprimand me too hard for the things that I've done.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that they ended up saying that they thought that she was going to be doing that as a way to like like make the jury feel bad for her.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like, oh, my eyes ended up going bad when I got into prison. It's not my fault that I needed to wear glasses.
They were probably those blue light ones so that like you don't get a headache from being on the computer, but they don't do anything other than that.
Yeah, probably. And she ended up getting the life sentence.
Oh, good for
or
her.
the death penalty.
Oh, she did get the death penalty?
It says they were in favor of the death penalty, I think.
She got a life sentence with no parole. It's so hard to go for that like life one, like the death penalty.
Yeah. She ended up having an appeal May 20th of 2013 because they tried to say that one of the witnesses to the case started getting death threats, so like it changed her
testimony.
Yeah. I don't know. Obviously the court was like, no. So let's go ahead and end this video on a more positive note. We're going to talk about the wines that we tried and let you know what we think. So the wine that I have today, shockingly, not sarcastically either. It's called William Wright.
Yes.
It's called William Wright, and it's a Pinot Noir.
Not a cab.
I like it.
It was really good, honestly.
Really? I don't know. So anyway, hold on. It contains sulfates.
If you're allergic,
So-
stay away.
Yes. And it's a little bit more on the light side than the bold side. It's more smooth than tannic. It's more dry than sweet and more acidic than soft. And it has flavors of blackberry, raspberry, vanilla, oak, tobacco. And the tobacco, I think, is what I tasted because she was going to drink the Pinot Noir because she likes Pinot Noir better than the Cabernet. But I was like, no, I got to venture out. And right when I took a sip of the Pinot Noir, I was like, that's very, like, smoky. And it has tobacco notes in it, so
Interesting.
might be why. But it pairs well with salads, poultry, fish, and soft cheeses, which makes me think about the little surprise we'll have for you guys. Not next week, but the weekend after, or week after. Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Yes.
Super excited.
I know, me too. I like it.
It was sweeter. Definitely, for sure. At least to me.
I don't know what it is. Like, it's very light. Like, it says it's more on the light side than the bold side, but to me, it's like, it's not thick at all when going in. Like, it's just like,
Almost
and I'm like,
watery,
whoa.
But
Yeah, and I'm
not.
like, whoa, chill.
You're like, ooh, okay,
Like,
you trying to go
wait.
down. Come in
Like,
hot.
whoa, bro, take me out for dinner first. And it's like, nah. So,
Nah. it's the fuckboy. Nah, we're just going home.
and I'm like, hold on, what?
I thought there was dinner involved.
Like, how did we get here? Where's my soft cheeses?
So one thing that I would like to mention before we end tonight and before I get into my wine is I changed my company name, guys,
Oh, yeah.
because I just can't settle on anything in my life. I apologize. But
Except for her husband and her child.
hey,
That's her huge thing.
love you guys. I mean, I feel like I made good decisions there.
yeah, definitely. For sure.
But company name wise, we definitely did struggle with it. We kind of went back and forth, me and my husband, and we decided that we wanted to go with something that sounded, I guess, a little more company wise versus like McGowan Made. We were like, it sounds more like a sign off than it does like a company name.
Mm-hmm.
So the new one is now Rose and Company. So now you can find us on Instagram still. It'll just be Rose and Company XO. And go ahead, follow me. Super close to 100 followers. So trying to do a giveaway, guys.
Get us there. Or get her there.
Get
I'm not
me there,
involved.
please. I just give you stuff.
Yeah, like these guys.
Right? All right, guys. So the one that I did tonight, let's see. Good. It's the Crust Wood Barrel. Now, this one, it does contain sulfates again, so anybody else, trying to worry about that and their allergies, not a good wine.
enjoy with wood-fired pizza. Love pizza.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to buy this for every pizza now. Anyway, so we'll get to that in a minute. This one was a Cabernet. And if you know me and the Cabernets do not always mix well because they're too thick for me. I'm not thick. What is it? What is
You don't like thick things? I'm just kidding.
I love thick things. This one has, well, it says it's on the bolder side, which I guess I can see that. It's
a cab.
definitely more tannic. It says it's drier versus sweet. I personally, no, I guess I could see that actually. Because the first few drinks or sips, major kickback.
Maybe I'll put that little blip in here.
I know, right? We're like, I'm not dying.
We took the first sip.
It does say it's more acidic than soft. This one, actually, I would maybe want to argue that it's maybe a little more softer. I didn't feel like it was too acidic. But like all your cabs, it's got some cherry, some red fruit, raspberries, chocolate, oak, caramel. On the website that we normally like refer to, obviously, it's your typical, you know, beef, lamb, veal, chicken. But on the back, it says that it pairs well with a red meat or a wood-fired pizza or even dark chocolate. And if you really don't know me, I'm hugely obsessed with pizza. So now I found the best wine.
Thank you everybody for watching, and we can't wait to see you next Wednesday.
Bye!